keeping you informed when it matters. BBC Essex Travel.
We're talking about this school in Rochford that's been criticised for telling a transgender pupil to use the disabled toilet. We have got in contact with the head teacher of the King Edmund School in Rochford, Jonathan Osborne, and sent us a statement which says the King Edmund School believes everyone has the right to feel comfortable and to be part of a community where, irrespective of background, sex, colour, disability, gender and so on, they can take part, feel they belong and achieve the very best they can. The school's always discussed individual needs with each of the small number of transgender students it has and sought to put in place agreed toilet provision that best meets their needs at that point in time. In line with the school's usual practice, when a concern is raised, the toilet provision was reviewed and the school carefully considered the needs of the students and the legal position laid out in the Equality Act 2010, which makes clear no one should be treated less favourably because they have a protected characteristic such as colour, disability, religion or, as in this case, being transgender. Therefore, because of what the school stands for and the rights written into equality law, the school made the decision to allow transgender students to use a toilet that matches their identified gender. And Gina Denham's here with us in the studio, set up a support group called Transpire, and I guess that's music to your ears.
Yeah, certainly. For me, we are delighted that the school listened to our concern. I don't want to be seen as gloating. The olive branch is very much out to that school and all the schools across the district and indeed the county that if they want to engage with us, we can tell people exactly what it feels like to be trans, And it's interesting, I just picked up on one of that we have a small number of trans students. Well, I think we said off air, you don't know what trans looks like if somebody's not going to come out and disclose that very personal bit of information. I contacted one school about a year ago that said we do not have any trans or non-binary students at our school. And I was like, oh, really? What, you've got some kind of a detective? Can you tell what's going on for students? And I think it's really crucial that even if schools don't actually identify and know that they've got trans students at their school, but they still got to empower people and raise people's understanding. So do things for LGBT History Month. The protected characteristics we're talking about in this case are transgender. If there's somebody's protected characteristics of disability, race, religion, etc., we would be horrified if somebody, for example, was excluded from a toilet because they were Jewish.
Gina, I'm going to bring in Caroline Farrow very, very soon, but I just want to put a text we've received here. Text to Word Essex, any message to 81333. I work in a senior school and I'm afraid I don't agree with your guest. It's all well and good making sure the transgender student feels comfortable, but the other students feel very uncomfortable if they have to share a toilet with someone who is essentially still the opposite sex. Most students are happy to accept any gender in general life. However, the toilet issue does make them feel uncomfortable. Yep, that's a very fair point, and that's often discussed in most organisations. How do we increase understanding about staff or other students that are feeling uncomfortable? But the issue is, this is the law. Okay, so this is about, so what should you do? It's important for me, as I say, that Transpire, we go into schools and show what trans looks like. Just off air, I showed you some flyers and leaflets about, we're just a group of people, but it's about our dysphoria, if you like, about our gender identity. So a school, your listener there said, that, well, what about the other students who feel uncomfortable? Well, my question back to them, well, what are you doing about raising awareness? So, okay. Yeah. For me, it's an absolute essential part of it. If we want to engage with schools in the area, and we're a free group, so we're not going to charge. We've had parents sometimes contact us where their child has suddenly said, "Look, I'm trans," and the parents naturally catastrophise. We can reassure them, and we can do the same for schools as well. Gina, thank you very much. Gina Denham from Transpire. I've got to apologise to Caroline Farrow. We've kept you waiting a little bit. Sorry, Caroline.
That's okay.
She's from Essex. She's a writer for the Conservative Woman. Just share your thoughts on what the way the discussion's gone from your perspective so far.
Okay, well, firstly, there's been a lot of talk about the law and the Equalities Act. Now, I think we would all agree that nobody wants anyone to be discriminated against unjustly on account of any protected characteristic. And, of course, being transgender is a protected characteristic under the Equalities Act. But the other thing to bear in mind is that actually certain elements of the Equalities Act don't apply in educational settings where children are under the age of 18. And also as well, being a woman is a protected characteristic under the Equalities Act, which allows for you to have sex-segregated facilities and clubs and other ththings in order to ensure the protection and safety of women. And I would echo what one of the parents has said, I think it was one of your callers said, that, I'm the mum of 5 kids. I've got 4 girls. I've got a teenage girl, and she's really desperately uncomfortable about, sharing toilet facilities, changing facilities, and so on. And I think you have to remember that...
Why? Why is she... May I ask why?
This is completely natural. I don't think we should pathologise this. Many, many girls are, because, puberty is a time where your body's changing, there's natural anxieties, and, people have boundaries. People have natural sort of boundaries about who they want to kind of share these spaces with. Not just women, actually, men too. And, girls are going through, their periods, the onset of puberty. They might have sanitary products to change. They might have, various sort of, I know this is probably a bit much for early in the morning, but they might have, accidents, leaks, things to sort out. And they just feel very uncomfortable. And I think rather than kind of trying to say to girls, you're being bigoted, you're being unreasonable, I think it's completely fair to say, okay, how do we meet everybody's needs? And how do we meet everybody's needs is we have spaces which are segregated by sex. And also,
the word segregation is not necessarily a good thing, is it?
Absolutely it is. Women have fought long and hard for segregated toilets, the right to be able to have segregated toilets in public. That was a core element of women's freedom and liberation.
How do you factor in people who are going through a really difficult point in their life where the sex that they were born as, they're not identifying with, they want to be something different, and that's a really difficult time for them? How do you cater for people in those scenarios then?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think with respect and compassion and kindness and understanding, but you can also, if you want to have a gender-neutral or gender-fluid space or whatever you want to call it, have a third space or make a different designation, because it is not fair on boys and girls to impose this on each other. It causes resentment, and I think there's a lot said actually about bullying. Now, any school that is worried, that says, if a boy who is transitioning into being a girl uses the boys' toilets, he'll be bullied. I can really understand that, but actually the school, nobody should be bullied in the toilets, and the school needs to really stamp down on that. And anybody who thinks that the girls' toilets are a haven of kind of peace and tranquility, girls are just as capable of being unkind sometimes as boys. But actually this is about ensuring everybody's rights, everybody's needs, instead of saying, okay, for the minority, girls have to completely let down their boundaries and let other people in. And I also think the other thing to remember here is, the statistics show that up to as many as 90% of children who exhibit a form of gender dysphoria, this actually resolves by the time that they're adults, that they become accustomed to and happy with the body into which they were born in. And I think there is something as well there, by accepting that you can be born in the wrong body, this is not any kind of established scientific or medical fact. So, you're actually sort of forcing children to say, oh, you're born in the wrong body and you can change sex. This isn't actually true. And I think while we need sensitivity, dignity, respect and compassion, we also need to make sure that everybody is protected. And, I'm personally really sad. When I heard the statement from that headmaster, I thought excellent. When he was talking about respecting everybody's needs and everybody's, rights, I was thinking, yes, he gets it. This is a diverse school. But no, and if I were a teenage girl, I think I'd be really uncomfortable with this. And also you have to remember, one final point. Okay. Teenage boys, children are children. I think when you start allowing people to say, as the new Gender Recognition Act will allow you to, I identify as this, do you really think it's beyond the bounds of imagination that some boy is going to try and identify as a girl in order to access the girls' loos, or also
Caroline,
to get a teacher into trouble for misgendering, as we've
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure that would happen. I mean, Gina, what do you make of what you heard there?
I just thought I'd gone back to about 1998. Just some of the interesting conversations I had back then, and as the world was back then, we kind of went, okay, that's our lot. That's how we have to exist.
I mean, this isn't something that people would joke about, surely.
Absolutely. Look, if we don't wear a badge if we've had any particular type of surgery. Can you imagine if I went into a guy's toilet right now? I was like, all right, guys, how are you getting on? I think I'd be lynched. So I think what your callers think, they're catastrophizing. They're imagining what a trans girl looks like. For a lot of people, that the transition, you can't eat the trans elephant all in one go. It's a slow process. It's about accepting who you are. So even the toilet situation, you may not, in my case, certainly, be comfortable using a girl's toilet straight off. So the way I used to work, as I said, I was quite blessed with 4 toilets. So I kind of chose which one to go to. But we never had those conversations. It was okay with people. And I think this is what's going on. People are imagining what trans looks like, and some guy in their head with who's saying he's a girl is going into a girl's. It's not like that at all, and it's about people feeling comfortable going into the toilets of the gender appropriate to who they are. But there's a lot of catastrophizing with that listener. They're not, unless they know any trans kids, I think they're just speculating.
Gina Denham and Caroline Farrow, I feel that there are more issues to address, but we are going to have to.
We're running out of time
to cut it there. And I'm sure Caroline has got something she would like to say in response to what Gina said there. But there are time limits, unfortunately.
Yeah, and as Caroline did point to, it is an incredibly personal element of your daily life going to the loo, and some people may feel uncomfortable with that, and we should respect those people's feelings. Caroline also pointing to the fact that perhaps there should be a sort of shared space, so perhaps girls, boys, and an additional shared area.
It's a highly sensitive issue, and I'm glad we've spoken about it today and at least brought it to the attention, because it is at that age, as Caroline said there, girls developing and very conscious of their image and their bodies. And what do schools do in this instance? Because they've all been built and designed with men's, women's and disabled toilets. It's a very interesting issue, and one I'm glad that we've spoken about this morning.
Yes, and if you want to talk about it, 0300 240 41 is our number. You can text 81333, but don't forget to start your message with Essex. And we're benson@bbc.co.uk on the email.